What's up, y'all? Coach Matthew going into week number 3 talking about the lunge. And as much as you might hate them, there is still a lot to gain from lunges as they are one of the most well-rounded lower body exercises. Taking a look at probably the most common variation you'll see in here, a reverse lunge. Setting up with enough room to take a big step back behind you. That big step is big enough to let the knees be at almost 90 degrees. Back knee not quite hitting the ground. It's here that we start to see why the reverse lunge targets the glutes and the hamstrings a little more, as we have to pull ourselves up to the top. Flipping it around, we now target the other side of the leg, your quads. But we also take a big step forward, the same size step as well. But we have to push now to extend the leg and activate the quads. And as similar as forward and reverse lunges are, they share a few common faults, a couple of which are easier to see head on. And the first of those two is how far apart your feet are side to side. Ideally, they stay about hip width apart even as you go to take your step forward, thinking of them almost on railroad tracks, sliding straight back to the same position. As you get more narrow in your stance, it becomes much harder to stay standing. Stability becomes an issue. But as you get wider, now the joints are moving in a little bit of an awkward way, and the muscles aren't working as efficiently. The second fault we're looking at head on is the direction of the back foot, trying to keep it pointed straight forward so that the knee points straight down to the ground. If we start rotating out to the side, the knee points sideways, the muscles back there stop working the way that they're meant to, and we miss out on some potential ankle stability work. And the other two faults are more easily spotted from the side. Number one is the size of the step. Too small of a step, and now your knee is forced over the toes, which puts excessive pressure through the knees. It might be why you hate lunges in the first place. Taking too large of a step, and now you're forced into a hinge as your body tries to avoid the excess tension on the hip flexor and the back quad. And the last common fault is throwing your shoulders, especially when adding weight in, and definitely with something like a forward lunge, you might catch yourself throwing your shoulders back first and dragging the rest of the body with you. Trying to keep the core tight, the spine rigid, all moving as one piece, as the push off using the front quad instead of dragging with the back glute. After all, these lunges move forward and back, not rocking right to left, so don't let your shoulders lean. Forward and backward lunges may not move side to side, but lateral lunges do. And with the new variation comes a different set of muscles. We're now working at the hip stabilizers and right down the outside of the thigh. Set up but still with feet about hip width apart, we'll take the step to the side, push the hips back behind you, and bend the knee that we're lunging towards before pushing up and off. One of the common faults here is still the direction of the toes, especially on the foot we're stepping out with. Naturally, you want to catch yourself on the toes, but with the toes pointed out, we're now starting to work the quads, almost like a Cossack squat. So twisting in, landing on the outside of the foot to keep them pointed in the same direction as the stationary foot. Now, another common fault for the lateral lunge is avoiding the hinge and trying to stay upright as if it was a forward or backward lunge. But hinging allows us to fully activate the stabilizer right at the top of the glute and make sure nothing's popping out of place. And lastly, with the lateral lunge, just like the other two lunge variations we talked about, size of the step is still important. Taking too large of a step, now the shoulders are out of line with the knee, putting more pressure through your knee and forcing you to bend that stationary leg to pull yourself back in. Too small of a step, and I'll be honest, it's just a little bit awkward trying to get a lateral lunge out of that. You'll find that sweet spot for a solid range of motion, no pain, and proper engagement. That's all I've got on the lunge for now. If you guys have any questions, you can always ask. But sticking around next week, we'll move on to the upper body with push. Y'all take care.